at this juncture of $26,627. As a reminder for some of the new commissioners, Lewiston Water Division runs on a July to June fiscal year, so they pay their operating contribution to the commission shortly after the July 1st. So until that catches up, the deficit isn't as unusual as it has been in the past. Both the Auburn Water and the Lewiston Water Division have billed for services through the first quarter. You will notice probably the biggest activity we've had is in the source protection line item. I might remind everybody that we had a deposit of $32,500 as part of their remediation agreement from the Lewiston Water Pollution Control Authority. That was deposited in last fiscal year. It lapsed into retained earnings and is available to fund projects this year. So at this point, we have Teagan Bond that is doing, is it the Blanchard remediation for a cost of $21,200, as well as Longchamps did some work on North Auburn Road for Erosion Control Authority, erosion control, I should say, for $27,150. At this point, most of the other accounts are trending normal. For this time of the year, things are just slowly starting to ramp up. And as far as the sinking fund, there's pretty much no activity to this point other than accrued interest and booking the depreciation expense at this for the year.
Any questions for Heather?
I've got a question. I'm just curious as to where is the cash? What are there two separate accounts? Is there the operating account and then the sinking fund? What is the amount of the cash on hand?
The cash on hand is running between all funds approximately $400,000. We have a money market account as well as the regular checking account for the operating. We have a CD and a checking account that serves as a money market for the sinking fund.
And then the rest of the value that we have down here combined $5,575,000. That's including land holdings or?
Land, the boat launch, things like that. And,
okay.
And again, I can refine the cash number tomorrow. I didn't bring the balance sheet with me. I just brought the income statement. So
no, that's fine, Heather. Just kind of curious. I just didn't see that on the on this analysis, but I haven't been looking too closely at it. So
yep.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? Is there a motion to accept?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. All in favor?
Chair Gruby?
Yes.
Commissioner Shields?
Aye.
Commissioner Doughty?
Yes.
Commissioner Parrish?
Yes.
Commissioner French?
Aye.
Commissioner Thibodeau?
Yes.
Commissioner Ray?
Yes.
Commissioner Bilodeau?
Yes.
Passes 8-0.
And Dan Bilodeau, welcome to the Lake Auburn Watershed Protection Commission. I guess you were just a little late. Normally what we do with these is we have someone express their interest as to why they wanted to be on the Watershed Protection Commission. Normally we have an actual room that we're all in together. So if you have anything you'd like to say before we go on. But anyways, welcome again.
I appreciate that. No, we can move on with the movie.
All right. Thank you, Dan.
Sure.
Erica, you're up.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Can.
Okay. Gonna move down the agenda items here. So first on here is the land use management plan. That was something that Lynn Richard had started when she was here. And I've been looking at that to update it. She had a really good draft started, but it's a few years. It is a few years outdated now. So I've been working to update it. Sid and Kevin are going to take a look at it and review it, and then we're looking to have that to the commission probably by the next meeting in September. That's something we need to reorganize a bit, I think. There's a lot of content in there. There was some recreation, natural resources, land use, those types of things. So that's in the works still. And for forestry, we don't have anything active right now. We don't have any plans to start anything anytime soon. There was one thing I wanted to bring to the commission. Our forester, Chip Love, had contacted me about blazing and painting some of the boundary lines for some of the properties that could have that touched up, that could stand to be, reblazed. And there's a few stretches of boundary lines, and it's about $1,800 worth of work. So I just wanted to put that out to the commission for consideration. And also there is, yep, that's a good picture of it. Thank you, Kevin. So there's 4 lines there, different lengths, and then you can see the breakdown of cost for those lines. And that's something I'd like to get back to him about if the commission is in favor of having that done. So I don't know if we want to put that to vote or just get commissioners' feedback on that.
Erica, what was the total cost? I tried to zoom in. I didn't do it quick enough.
Sure, it's about $1,800. I rounded, but it's about $1,800.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I missed, are these the property lines, if so?
Yes, so these are the boundary lines for parcels that are owned by the commission.
Thank you.
Some of which have not been done before. Yep.
I think we should. If we're going to protect it, it'll, kind of reduce the possibility of encroachments, right?
Yeah, that's the idea. Yep.
But I believe in the budget for this year, we had no revenues for forestry, but we had approved $3,000 for forestry expenses, which this would be in line with that as far as maintaining boundaries. Some of these parcels are small parcels that have now combined into one. So those boundaries have officially changed. So I think it is important to maintain those lines.
I think the longer you wait, it's going to be more difficult.
I would recommend funding that from the land sinking fund. That's an eligible expense from that fund to preserve the land parcels and cost and so forth.
Okay. Thank you.
Is that a motion? Just a...
I think a commissioner needs to do it. Yeah, I'd make a motion to fund it through the sinking fund, reblazing those trails shown, or reblazing those lines shown on the map that was previously.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
I'll second that.
Oh, okay.
Okay. I'm moving to second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
I got a quickie. I know there's a couple things today I'll probably sound like a broken record about, but it'd be good if this stuff came out in the packet. That way we could look at the lines, be able to see them. It's even harder now, when we're in the meeting and you can hand a sheet around when someone else is talking, you can look at it. It's much more difficult. So items we're going to talk about, report updates, it would just be nice if we got a little something ahead of time to read, and we'd probably move along faster, that's all.
I would ditto that for sure. I was just trying to go through my email and see if I had missed something for this.
You
so,
didn't.
Okay. I was like,
Kevin's already heard my broken record earlier today.
It's just, with juggling everything municipal wise, it'd be great to put it in a folder.
Absolutely.
Sure. One thing that I did just get this morning. So I do apologize for not getting this out ahead of time. But also from the forester that we use, Chip Love, he is doing some cutting on private property it's near Summer Street Extension. And it's the owners are the Choates. And I guess the last time that their property was harvested, they actually had a landing area on commission property which abuts it. So he has asked permission to use that landing area again to process the wood from that property. And that, again, sorry, but that just came in this morning, but I wanted to bring it up.
Commissioner Ruby, do we want to get a vote on the use of funds for blazing first?
Yeah, why don't we just take that vote?
Okay. Chair Groovy?
Yes.
Commissioner Shields?
Yes.
Commissioner Dowdy?
Yes.
Commissioner Parrish?
Yes.
Commissioner French?
Yes.
Commissioner Thibodeau?
Yes.
Commissioner Ray?
Yes.
Commissioner Bilodeau? You're muted.
Sorry, I'll abstain.
Okay. Passes 7-0, 1 abstention.
Okay, and Erica, back to the other thing.
Sure, yeah. So this is a property that is near Summer Street Extension and has lakeshore frontage. It's owned by the Choates. And this morning I received a harvest plan for their property as it is within the watershed. And they are requesting permission to use part of the abutting watershed commission property to process their harvest. It's a landing area, and they have done this in the past.
My question is, would the forester then restore it back to a natural state?
So they would need to if they were going to use it for that purpose, yes.
That would be the responsibility of the private landowner. Any costs involved?
Yes, to maintain it as vegetated and restore, yes.
Okay.
I think we're in a little bit of flux, kind of developing our forestry standards, which I think we're going to talk about in a moment. I guess I would like to hold off until such time we actually have those, to hold the developer to those, I mean, the forester to those standards, or the cutter on the next property. Unless there's some real hardship for them, I'd like to hold off until we have our forestry standards set and agreed to.
Okay.
Any other discussion?
I would just echo Commissioner Dowdy on the fact that we need an overall plan and policy in place before we move forward.
Heather's raising her hand.
Yes, we also should probably have an agreement with a written agreement.
Yeah.
Not only cost sharing arrangements, but also liability and proof of insurance.
And we may want to bond the restoration in the future. That's all stuff we need to talk about in this forestry plan, because we certainly don't want somebody, not that they would, but somebody might walk away and leave us holding. So I agree with everything Heather said, but that ought to all get laid out.
Okay. Any other comments on that? I can relay that to the landowner and the forester that's where we're at this time. As Dale mentioned, we've been working on putting together our forestry BMPs. So of course, you know, we hold ourselves to state standards, but we want to go above and beyond that. So I've started putting together some of our ideas between myself and Sid and just jotting down, you know, and outlining what are the extra standards we want to hold ourselves to, what's our process going to be, whether it's, you know, we've got a bulk of it already done, whereas, you know, we meet with forester ahead of time, walk the site, I go out there, take photos, document it, identify any streams or water crossings that are on the properties, those kinds of things. So that's just in draft form at the moment also. So once we formalize that, as Dale said, get that to the commission as well. So that is in the works. For our watershed projects, as Heather mentioned, we have been using Tie and Bond as a consultant to look into what we call Blanchard Pond. It's a small body of water on Blanchard Road in Auburn. We identified it in 2018 as having extremely high phosphorus levels. And so what we wanted to do is collect more data on that pond, collect more data on the drainage pathway from that pond to the lake, because it does drain directly to the lake. And where it outlets into the lake, we have consistently seen high phosphorus numbers as well. So we had our consultant, Heather Doolittle, who works for Tie and Bond. She came and sampled the pond when there was still ice on. She was out here on Friday to take some measurements and look at the erosion of the stream bank for the stream that connects this pond to the lake. And she will have another sampling effort later in June or July for summer sampling. So once we get all of that data, the idea of this is to figure out the best way to mitigate this source of phosphorus and to address the drainage channel to the lake as well, with the goal of reducing phosphorus into the lake, reducing nutrient loading in general, and stabilizing any eroded bankways that are taking that water and passing it into the lake. So that's ongoing for this summer. And also we've done our watershed sampling, started a few months ago now. And we have known that there are some sites along Spring Road that are eroded and need some construction work. So we've identified, there's one plunge pool that was installed several years ago that needs some maintenance. It's kind of blown out on the bottom, and where that outlets into the lake, we've consistently seen high levels of phosphorus, and we've seen sediment accumulation. And the ditching on Spring Road needs to be addressed as well. So Lewiston Public Works is going to be helping us out with that. I was talking to Kevin and Sid about that recently, and that should be scheduled for this month, that they can go out there and start working on that, which will be a big help because there are some spots on that road that we've known have been problematic. So it'd be good to get those addressed. Next on our list, the courtesy boat inspection program. We have one boat inspector currently. She is stationed at the Route 4 boat launch, and she checks trailers and boats coming in and out of the lake for any invasive plant species or animal species as well now. She's there 3 days a week, and I'm looking to the remainder of the days with another inspector. The Watershed project, just a little background on that, that was started when Lauren Olson, who was our education and outreach coordinator, was here. It was a community project to reach out to local water users. We had some funds set aside so that if they wanted to install a water fountain or water bottle refill station at a public space that's open to the community, that we would fund that part of it. They would have to pay for the installation. And then we also, there would be a plaque or some type of display saying that, making the connection that this drinking water out of this fountain is coming from Lake Auburn, and a blurb about why it's so important to protect our source. So the Good Shepherd Food Bank in Lewiston successfully installed their water bottle refill unit. So I'm going to be working with them to get a display up. It's been a little tricky with COVID-19 restrictions, obviously. So, but they were happy with it, and they will be sending their request for reimbursement. As I mentioned, watershed sampling picked back up again this spring. We have several sites around the perimeter of the lake that are routinely sampled. And for our in-lake sampling, that has started as well. And I have these aren't to date numbers, so just bear with me, but they're the most recent that we have. For the lake water quality, turbidity is running about a 0.5 NTU, which is typical for this time of year. The most recent clarity readings I have, it's about 6 to 7 meters of water clarity. Surface temp is about 12 degrees Celsius. And the most recent phosphorus data that we have back from the state, which is early May, our phosphorus readings in the lake are about 8 to 12 parts per billion, which is good. And for watershed quality, as I mentioned, we're looking to address those sites on Spring Road and continuing our work with Blanchard Pond. Let me just double check that I addressed what I wanted to here.
Erica, what is the plan for Blanchard Pond?
So this effort with Time On is really a data collection effort, and at the end of their data collection, they're gonna analyze what they have and give us recommendations for remediating it. That's what we're looking for, is what is the best way to stop this small body of water that is so highly concentrated in phosphorus. What's the best way to prevent that phosphorus from entering the lake and any other nutrients that are associated with that site? So they're going to give us recommendations, whether that's structural. We're not sure what we're going to do for a fix yet. That's what we hired them to tell us, what are our best options.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Anyone else for Erica?
This is Steve French.
Hey, Steve.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
I just want to tell you that a couple of weeks ago, I was at the boat landing, and that young lady was doing a good job. She was making the right comments and asking the right questions. So she was doing a job.
That's great to hear. I will pass that on to her. We're lucky. She's a good one to have. She keeps her eye out.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I was just curious, this Blanchard Road pond, is this where MJ Dillingham lived?
Yes.
And did she start something with that?
No.
Did anyone contacted, see if she's done any work with that prior?
No, it had never been studied.
Okay.
I apologize if this was said. I ran to grab some water, but are we rehiring for Lauren Olson's position, and where is that in the process?
Good question. Yes, I had wanted to hire somebody in March, right before we all were sent home and before everything locked down. So yeah, we had interviewed one person who was local, and we had one other person we were looking to interview, and we held off. And he actually just reached out to me Monday, and I was talking to Sid and Kevin about that because both utilities had hiring freezes. So once we can confirm that it would be okay to hire somebody new, we'll continue the interviewing process. But yes, we definitely want to fill that position.
Great. And that's still part-time?
Yes, that's still how we had it set up as
Okay.
part.
Cool. Thank you.
Yep. Kevin, I don't know, did you want to talk about the setting up a forestry workshop?
Yeah, that'd be great. We've talked about the forestry update and the forestry plan and our forestry management plan, and with COVID-19 and we're wondering if there's definitely some interest. Wanted to see if there was a topic bring up of an ad hoc committee. But we definitely want to have more of an in-person workshop for all of the commissioners to at least talk with our forester, Chip Love, and get an update on where we are with our parcels. Also discuss some of the matrix and evaluation and information we have that Erica's been working on. Get your ideas and start that discussion. If people are available or interested to have a workshop either in July or August. After this meeting, our next official meeting is going to be September 6th, I believe.
September 9th.
September 9th. So we're looking at a big gap in time, and I think it would be really valuable to actually either meet on a forestry site to actually look at BMPs and talk about what's appropriate and what is the next level that we'd like to see done on our forestry projects.
I think it'd be a good idea.
Is commissioners generally in favor of meeting in late July or August? Is that time available for you all? Is there a date in mind, or?
I think, Kevin, if you could send some things around about some queries or send some suggested dates instead of us just bantering around. I'm in. I think it's important for us to take a look at things and discuss them in the field. And hopefully Erica and Mr. Love have kind of gotten some things together, and we can talk about where we, have a straw man to see where we want to go.
I think it would be good to at least begin an outline of the important issue of forestry management. Be a starting point. In favor.
Having Chip talk about why we're shooting towards a certain culture in our forest and how that protects the watershed is important. That get highlighted there.
Some of this we want to actually meet with you all in person. We can email, we can do a Zoom, but actually looking together at a map or looking, actually be able to point and everybody can see, ask questions is valuable. So we're hoping to do this in person if possible. So we'll definitely throw out some dates. Are there any dates in July or August that definitely don't work for anybody? I have kids that are in high school, but I think our spring sports are out. Some of our family trips are kind of out. So if anybody has any dates, I'll send an email around. We can try to coordinate a couple dates that work.
Sounds good to me.
Anything else? Thank you, Erica.
Sure.
We want to officially accept your report.
I would make that motion.
Okay.
Second it.
All right, move to second. All in favor? Roll call, I guess, Kevin.
Sure. Commissioner.
The new world.
Chair Groovy?
Yes.
Commissioner Shields?
Yes.
Commissioner Dowdy?
Yes.
Commissioner Parrish?
Yes.
Commissioner French?
Yes.
Commissioner Thibodeau?
Yes.
Commissioner Ray?
Yes.
Commissioner Bilodeau?
Yes.
Excellent. Passes 8-0.
Okay, we're up to Route 4 reconstruction.
Yes, I'll take that one. Kevin, I was not able or didn't have time to bring up that graphic. Would you be able to put that on the screen?
Sure.
The Route 4 boat launch, MDOT they've got a project that's been in the works for quite some time. They're going to be reconfiguring the Route 4 along the causeway. They're going to be installing a couple of what they call jug handles right in the vicinity of the boat launch. So anyone heading in a southerly direction will be able to turn and head north. Anyone heading north will be able to use an alternate jug handle and head south. I don't know if Kevin, you can get that. There it is. Okay, great. Thank you. This is not a construction plan. It's sort of a cartoon, if you will, that kind of shows what they're planning on doing. This was actually a photograph taken from a video that they had done at one of their public presentations. But this shows what traffic is going to look like once this project is done. I don't know if you can orient yourself here. This in the middle is Route 4. They're going to be 2 lanes north, two lanes south. you can see on the left of that is the existing boat launch, is an aerial photo of the boat launch. Overlaid on that is as I mentioned, the jug handle turnarounds that they're going to be installing. The existing rest stop on Route 4 is actually going to be removed as part of this project. And they are going to be accommodating a recreation, or at least the beginning of a recreational trail that will go through that area. So what's now the existing turnout is going to be a grassed area, but will also accommodate a multi-use recreational trail of some sort. The DOT, the boat launch property is actually owned, as you know, it's owned by the commission. And I've been in discussions with the MDOT project engineer, Roby Moulton. They're looking to go out to bid, hopefully this October, for this work and begin this construction starting sometime next year. In order to accommodate this design, you can see it's going to be impacting the boat launch area. They've requested, in lieu of going out and doing an appraisal for land taking, they've requested to donate the land to accommodate this traffic configuration. In doing that, they would work with us and absorb costs of having this work done. The two gates that are currently there, the entrance and exit gates to the boat launch, will need to be moved. They will absorb those costs, and they've also vowed to work with us with the loss of the Route 4 turnout. There's going to be an anticipation of more people utilizing the boat launch area for parking, for accommodating what will eventually become that recreational trail, or just to be able to park and be there for accessing the lake. So although I don't have anything in detail, they have vowed to work with us to help absorb some of the cost of some additional parking that may be required as well. So I'm bringing it forward to you today to see if that's something that you agree to in concept. I'd like to get back to the DOT and tell them that we agree that we will work with them to accommodate that design without them having to come up with a formal appraisal and taking process. So that's what I'm hoping to get from the commissioners.
And they're replacing the access and egress from the boat launch?
Yes, they will be. This plan, I do have a section of a construction plan, but I don't have that to show you here on the screen. It would probably be a little more confusing to look at because it's a sheet out of the construction plan. But yes, to answer your question, yes, they will be. The existing entrance to the south will be abandoned. They would make that part of the project, and they would accommodate the traffic as shown in that schematic.
Okay, they've had several meetings in our neighborhood, but that was a question that the state wouldn't answer for me, whether or not they'd replace the gates.
Yes, I've been told they will, and I will certainly get that in writing. That's been my conversation with them, is that they would absorb that cost.
Sid, the DOT, Mr. Moulton, you said his name was?
It's a woman. Her name is Roby Moulton.
It's a woman. My question. Have they mentioned how the East Auburn Village is going to connect to this recreational area? I know currently there's no pedestrian bike path crossing. Is there some sort of engineering that they can do to add some sort of safe crossing without having to build a bridge over this 4-lane highway?
Dan, we asked him that. He said that because there are islands in the center, you can cross to the island and then the other side. I don't think that guy has stood on Center Street and seen the amount of traffic going through.
Yeah, and that was Tony, right, from Auburn Engineering. I would think the state would probably have some ideas as well that would link the East Auburn Village. Something safer than it is now.
Yeah.
What I can do is I can bring that concern to them and
thank you.
See what comes from it.
Sid?
Yes.
I guess a couple things. One, as a commissioner, I don't disagree with the concept. We got to be a little careful about what they're obligated to do if they were doing a taking compared to what they're offering to do, having worked for that organization for 20, 30 years. I just, you know, when they say, and I'm not saying they're being disingenuous, but starting to get that on paper as part of an MOU is important.
Right.
When they say they're going to help us with egress and entrance, there's some obligation to do that to start with, regardless of whether they take the property or not. Replacing the gates, or at least paying us something for the value of the existing gates, is something they're obligated to do. Now, if they're going to help us upgrade the gates and do things like that, upgrade parking, as you mentioned, I guess to me, I'm not opposed to this discussion. I think there needs to be a little more specifics before the commissioner is going to get too far, or at least this commission. Or I'd just like to know what it is exactly they're proposing. October's not that far away. They should know by now. I mean, they're at PS&E. They've got their budgets worked out. They've probably got approval from federal highway or near approval to advertise the project. So the finances are relatively worked out at this point.
Oh,
Yeah,
I agree
I'd
with
be
that all.
interested in seeing.
So I'm having a hard time answering your question without knowing what that specifically is, I guess.
That's it.
Yeah, yeah.
Just to elaborate on what Dale was saying, when they agree to move the gates, I can understand physically moving them, but are they going to be responsible for the utility changes to provide power for those gates? Because that could, I don't know if that's going to involve poles or more underground wiring or whatever, but to me, it should be a total package that when it's done, it's operable.
No, but by all means, yes. I agree with that wholeheartedly. Yeah.
Sid, there was a catch basin that was a problem at the turnoff. Is that going to have any kind of resolution?
You mean the one that there was some illicit dumping of diesel fuel? Yeah.
That'll all go.
That would be eliminated as part of this project, because that basin was located within the turnout. So that would be eliminated as part of this project.
I'd be interested in seeing a more clear and specific map of the area before I had a sense of how I wanted to move forward with this.
Okay. Like a more detailed plan of exactly what it's going to look like and what it's,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You know, and what working with us means.
Yeah.
Whatever that means. I mean, it's good stuff. There's nothing bad about it. It just would be nice for us to know what that is.
Right. I agree.
Anyone else?
I'm a little confused about the on the map. What looked like the racetrack went through the boat landing. I suspect that really nothing's going to change in that area, just the entrance.
That's correct. Yeah. Yeah, that's just showing the traffic pattern, the existing traffic pattern within the boat launch circle itself.
Okay, that's what I thought, but I want to make sure I understood. Thank you.
Right, right. One thing that at least I discussed over the phone when we talked about the additional parking required with the loss of the turnout, there was some potential about the inside that oval, if you will, that forested area possibly being utilized for additional parking. That was just something there's nothing definitive yet, but that was something looked at as an area that might be compatible for getting some additional parking. And that was kind of the general discussion about what they might be able to assist with. But we do need some more formal commitment to make that happen.
Thank you, Sid. That's all good stuff.
Sid, I have one more question.
Sure.
We talked last time about the water haulers, and perhaps they were going to go to a hydrant or something.
Yes.
Any more discussion on that? I will tell you that Alan Terrio's boy, Owen, has gone in the business, and so there's another water hauler, and I'm making some wonderful money off him.
Yeah, I think, well, yeah, I've seen that truck there. That is one of the trucks that Erica is working with. They're mostly the splash trucks, but that is another one, Terrio. Yeah.
Yeah, that's Alan's boy.
Okay.
He used to deal with Alan Terrio, and this is his son.
All right. Yeah, we are planning, as we mentioned at the last meeting, we are planning on both entities installing a fill station at an alternate location. Because once that turnout is gone, Erica's worked quite closely with the haulers and let them know what's coming.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So do you have enough direction, Sid?
Yeah, I think so. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, it sounds like commissioners are amenable to moving ahead along that line, but just want to make sure that our interests are covered. It's kind of it in a nutshell. I think I can work with that.
Okay. If we could move on to open session for public comments. We still have some.
We do. We have one attendee. We have Casey Geiger. Casey, I just enabled you to talk if you'd like. You just need to unmute your computer or your iPad, and
I think I'm there.
Okay. Yep, we can hear you.
I've got no questions.
Thank you. Open session for commissioners.
If I could have the floor for a sec. The question, not the question I have, but the comment I had for the commissioners today was the Auburn Water District is supposed to every 5 years look at the bylaws for the protection of Lake Auburn. I know Sid is, I don't know if it was Steve or Sid, is probably going to try to work that into an agenda item. But I wanted to extend an invitation to commissioners, those that might be interested. I mean, for a good example is, why is a seaplane not allowed on the lake, but boats in great number are allowed on the lake? Why do you need the 12-foot skirt on a kayak? These are types of bylaws that the Auburn Water District trustees are supposed to review every 5 years, but it hasn't been done since the inception of these bylaws. So I wanted to keep that an option for any of the commissioners or obviously staff of the city of Lewiston to get involved with that when that materializes.
Thank you, Dan. Anyone else?
Joe, can I kind of spin off from that a little bit?
Sure, Gail.
I'm going to get back on my broken record. I know I'm that 45 that's gotten to the center and goes grind, grind, grind. I apologize, but we've talked about on multiple occasions, really looking at a couple things, looking at our watershed protection plans overall, which could lead into some of the stuff that Dan talked about, reviewing where really our risks are in the watershed and with a modern view. And then spinning out of that, and I know Richard, I saw in the minutes that he brought up or followed on a conversation that I'd had last time about setting the commission's priorities, which might dovetail with Auburn Water District's charter. So and then at each meeting, I don't see that progressing onto the agenda, and yet I hear commissioners say that's something they'd like to talk about. I'd like to I'd like to move that tonight, that be on the agenda for the next meeting, and that some work get done between now and then. One of the things Richard brought up the last meeting were maybe having a small subcommittee to start taking a look at some of those things. I think we really need to figure out what our priorities are, and put our money where those priorities are more than and they may not be any different than they are today, but I think it's just a 2020, 2021 look at what the risks are to the lake and where we're really going to put our effort.
Thank you.
I have just one minor question regarding the forest meetings possibly this summer and what Dale just talked about. Would that be via video, or would it be actually a group setting with social spacing? Or is that to be decided with this whole pandemic going on? Playing it by ear.
Go ahead, Kevin.
I think it's really, we have some suggestions, I think, as staff, but really it's up to the commission to what you feel comfortable with, and to Dale's point, what you would like to work on. So I think that the topic of forestry, even in itself, is quite broad. We could probably spend several workshops on it. I think the idea of meeting in person, I personally like. I think if we can do it with acceptable social spacing and keep everybody involved safe, then that's be definitely the priority. If something changes, I was thinking an outside venue, if possible, maybe on the community college, maybe actually on a forested site, either on Spring Road or one of the Watershed properties. We have some shade structures. We can bring chairs. We can make sure things are spaced out, shade, water, and those things, so that we could have a constructive meeting. Or if there's a choice, we could continue with the Zoom. So I think it's up to the commissioners on what you feel you're comfortable with and which way you'd like to go.
I'd be in favor of, meeting as a group session, because I think it would be a lot more productive, using graphics or speakers or whatever. But I would be in favor of that form of meeting.
So wouldn't I.
Yeah, I'd prefer on site.
We still have a motion on the table from Dale, correct? Dale put a motion on the table to look at watershed protection plans, where are the risks in the watershed, and to define commission priorities. You put that as a motion, correct, Dale?
Yes, I did. Beginning at the next meeting until it's complete.
I'll second that with what he said. Like to add in the notes the modern view of the review of the bylaws as well.
Okay, let's get back to that motion then. I didn't realize it was a motion, Dale. I apologize.
It was kind of clunky. I could see that.
Nah, that's okay. So we have a motion on the floor.
We have a second with Dan DeLittle, Mr.
Yeah, and
No.
Is there any other discussion? Not. If we could do a roll call. Oh, go ahead, Camille.
I wanted to say that to make it productive for the September agenda item, I would really like to see some information ahead of time regarding the watershed protection that we're going to be discussing. Otherwise, we'll just come here without any background information, and it won't be as helpful as it could be.
Camille, Kevin and I talked about that a little bit today. I think there's a couple things could occur because we have such a time. I think we could pull together a synopsis of what reports we have today. We have, there's a couple here, the diagnostic studies, and just a little synopsis of what each of those did and didn't do. There are, in those reports, there are recommendations for the commission previously when they set their goals. We may not be able to get to every one, but kind of an overview of, and Eric has already done this once, I think, and could reshare it with us about what we've accomplished and what there was still left to go back in those. And then Kevin and I talked about maybe surveying the commissioners just to get an idea of what their priorities are. and then we could refine that down into something that we could take off in bite-sized chunks. I'm not under any delusion that this isn't going to take a year, but you got to take logical bites and not just try to chew on the whole thing at once. So I think we could, maybe I could work with staff a little bit, and we could get some structure out to people, and then you could send back, that structure doesn't work, this works, and maybe we could do a little of that so that everybody's ready to come to the next meeting with that first bite that we could grab onto. Does that make sense?
Yes, that would be very helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, I can certainly do that, Dale. Just kind of put together synopses of, those diagnostic studies, all those recommendations. And you're right, that's kind of what I did at the beginning of the year, but put that together for everybody to digest and take a look at, and to add to, what do we want to add to it to make it current? What are people's current concerns? Some of it will overlap, but yeah, I'm happy to put that together and get that out before our next meeting. Do you think like an August timeline to have that out to you guys is good? Okay.
I think that would be good, Erica, because I think one thing would be nice if the commissioners see there's something missing that's in their interest, or there's something there that they believe that's not in their interest. It'd be we might have a month or so to modify it or tweak it a little bit before the meeting, really to get the greatest value out of it. Dan listed a number of things that are in his interest. I think others will have different ones. So.
Yep. So we have those reports that were done a few years back, but we also, we're constantly collecting data in the watershed too. So, we have a lot of years worth of data. I can work with Chris to compile that to really pick out the most salient, points.
That'd be great.
I think the first time we talked about this, and I just want to echo again, Dan, coming from as a water trustee, kind of is aware of the issues already, but anyone coming in new as a commissioner, I had no idea what we were talking about for about 6 months. And I think just keeping that sort of information current. So it's just like a digest of, here's what you need to know, here's where we're focusing, here's where we're going, where we've been.
Okay. So Kevin, if there's no other discussion, would you conduct a roll call?
Sure. Chair Gruby?
Yes.
Commissioner Shields?
Yes.
Commissioner Doughty?
Yes, I better say yes.
I better. Commissioner Parrish?
Yes.
Commissioner French?
Yes.
Commissioner Thibodeau?
Yes.
Commissioner Ray?
Yes.
And I believe Commissioner Bill will be a positive as well.
Yes, you're right.
All right. Approved 8-0.
Is there any other business for the open session?
Joe?
Yeah. Go ahead, Bethel.
I think this is my last meeting, so I just want to say what a pleasure it's been to work with all of you for all these years.
Oh, and it's right back at you, for sure. Thank you for your service. I didn't realize it was going to be your last meeting.
I believe it is. I don't know who's keeping track of it, but.
No, I am. Hold on a minute.
I guess Sid will clarify this.
I think you're right, Bethel.
Bethel, if that's true, when we get back together in person, you can join us as a member of the public with cookies and stuff. We could use a few more members of the public to weigh in.
John used to call me Grammy Watershed.
We'll have to retire that name. Put it on the wall.
Well, if there's no other business, could we have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I'd just like to say it's been a pleasure working with you, Beth. You certainly contributed a lot to your community.
Thank you, Dick.
You're welcome.
You can always renew.
I think it's been long enough.
You're getting a lot of support here today, Beth.
if you can't find anyone else.
Oh,
And maybe,
Bethel, I think you should make the motion to adjourn, Bethel, today.
maybe we don't need to go looking.
If you would like that, I would be glad to.
I think that's appropriate.
Is now the time? Are we finished with all the other business? I
Yeah.
can't print out my agenda, so I couldn't look at it and do this too. Okay, I move we adjourn. Stay well, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bethel. Is there a second?
I will second that.
Thank you. Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That one's a
I
good
think
one.
you go 8-0.
Yes.
All right. Have a good few months, guys.
Thank you.
That's all.
thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.